There is a strange new fight happening in luxury shopping, and it is not really about money. It is about age, taste, identity, and who gets to decide what expensive should look like. Boomers often grew up seeing luxury as polished leather, quiet service, clean tailoring, strong stitching, and pieces that could survive for years without looking ridiculous. Gen Z grew up with short videos, resale apps, celebrity street photos, limited drops, viral runway clips, and outfits that have to say something in 3 seconds. That is why some brands boomers avoid or laugh at are the same brands Gen Z shoppers chase like cultural trophies. These brands are selling codes, jokes, status, rebellion, and the feeling of being understood by fashion people. Miu Miu is one of the clearest examples of a luxury brand many boomers look at and simply do not understand. To a boomer shopper, the tiny skirts, messy layers, ballet flats, little cardigans, visible socks, and school uniform energy can look unserious. A boomer may ask why anyone would pay luxury prices to look like they walked out of a school hallway, dance studio, or messy bedroom. But Gen Z sees the exact thing boomers often miss. Miu Miu sells controlled awkwardness. It sells expensive youth without pretending to be mature. It turns the half-finished outfit into a status symbol. Boomers often want luxury to look complete, elegant, and proper. Gen Z likes that Miu Miu looks slightly undone. A tiny skirt, a wrinkled cardigan, a ballet flat, or a small logo hair clip can feel careless on purpose, and that is the whole game. The younger shopper is not always trying to look rich in the old boomer way. They are trying to look styled, current, and a little difficult to decode. A boomer might see an overpriced basic. Gen Z sees a fashion password. A boomer might see a simple shoe. Gen Z sees a whole internet mood. That is why Miu Miu is controversial. It turns girlhood, school dressing, and awkward beauty into luxury. Boomers may avoid it because it looks too young, too odd, or too expensive for what it is. Gen Z chases it because it lets them look innocent, ironic, wealthy, and rebellious all at once. Loewe is another brand that makes boomers pause and ask a very simple question. Why is the bag shaped like that? That question is exactly why Gen Z pays attention. Boomers often expect a designer bag to be elegant, balanced, serious, and obviously useful. Loewe does not always behave that way. It makes puzzle bags, strange shapes, surreal accessories, odd shoes, playful clothing, and objects that feel closer to art than old-school luxury. A boomer may see confusion. Gen Z sees intelligence. Its advantage is that it does not just scream, "Look at our logo." It says, "Look at this shape. Look at this leather. Look at this idea." Gen Z shoppers are often allergic to anything too obvious. Boomers may still trust polished hardware, classic structure, and recognizable status symbols. Gen Z often wants the status to be visible only to people who know. A tomato-shaped bag, a balloon-like shoe, or a twisted dress creates a reaction. Boomers may see playfulness as a lack of seriousness, but Gen Z often sees playfulness as proof that the brand is alive. The controversy is that very expensive products can look childlike or absurd, but that absurdity travels through photos, videos, and conversations. A plain luxury item may be beautiful in person, but a strange Loewe piece survives the phone screen. Many boomers avoid it because it does not match their old idea of refined luxury. Gen Z chases it because it makes luxury feel like a private joke told through leather, shape, and attitude. Saint Laurent is interesting because boomers do not always avoid the name. Many boomers respect the history. They know the brand has serious fashion weight. But the version younger shoppers chase today can feel too sharp, too black, too cold, or too severe for older buyers who prefer warmth and comfort. A boomer might see a black blazer, a sheer top, narrow sunglasses, a sleek leather jacket, or a hard-looking boot and wonder why the look feels so expensive and unfriendly at the same time. Gen Z sees power. Saint Laurent sells controlled danger. It is not messy like some Gen Z favorites, and it is not playful like others. It is clean, dark, and direct. That is why younger shoppers love it when they want to look grown but not boring. Boomers often connect grown-up luxury with elegance, manners, and polish. Gen Z often wants grown-up style to look a little dangerous. The appeal is not always about a loud logo. It is about silhouette. A sharp shoulder can say more than a monogram. A black coat can say more than a bright print. A skinny belt, loafer, sunglasses, or severe jacket can turn a plain outfit into something expensive without shouting. Boomers may ask where the obvious value is. Gen Z understands that the value is in the mood. Saint Laurent creates a feeling almost instantly: rich, moody, unavailable, and slightly intimidating. Boomers may avoid that coldness. Gen Z often wants it. In a culture where everyone overshares, Saint Laurent sells the fantasy of saying less and seeming more powerful. The Row may be the brand that makes boomers the angriest, not because it is loud, but because it is almost silent. A boomer shopper may look at a plain coat, a simple sandal, a quiet bag, or a beige sweater and say, "That costs how much?" And honestly, that reaction is understandable. The Row often removes the obvious signs of luxury and leaves behind fabric, proportion, cut, and restraint. To boomers who were trained to read luxury through visible markers, that can feel like a trick. Where is the logo, the hardware, the drama, the proof? Gen Z's answer is simple. The proof is that people who know. That phrase may annoy boomers, but it explains a lot of modern luxury. The Row became a key name in quiet luxury, but it is not quiet in a humble way. It is quiet in a very expensive way. The pieces often look plain until they are worn by someone who understands fit and proportion. Boomers may think a basic item should have a basic price. Gen Z often thinks the cleanest version of a basic item is the hardest to find. That is the tension. The Row sells the fantasy of being above trends while also becoming one of the biggest trends itself. But Gen Z is drawn to that because it rejects loud logo culture without looking ordinary. A boomer sees a sweater. A younger shopper sees quiet hotels, expensive coffee, clean apartments, and perfect tailoring. The Row gives Gen Z a way to look mature without looking like a boomer. Prada is a brand many boomers respect, but the pieces Gen Z chases can still confuse older shoppers. Boomers may remember Prada as elegant, intellectual, European, and serious. Younger shoppers are often drawn to the brand's more awkward, technical, and almost anti-pretty side. Nylon bags, chunky loafers, sharp uniforms, triangle logos, strange skirts, heavy shoes, and pieces that look plain until they suddenly look brilliant. Prada's power is that it makes ugly feel educated. A boomer might see a heavy shoe and ask why anyone would pay luxury prices for something so clunky. Gen Z sees a shape that makes the outfit stronger. A boomer might see nylon and say it is not luxury because it is not fine leather. Gen Z sees a practical material turned into a fashion code. Boomers want the material itself to prove the price. Gen Z is more willing to pay for context and cultural meaning. Prada lives in that strange space between useful and intellectual. A shoe can look heavy, but the heaviness becomes the point. The controversial part is that Prada does not always flatter in the easy way. It can make the wearer look severe, odd, bookish, or strange. Boomers may prefer luxury that softens the body and makes the person look polished. Gen Z often likes Prada because it sharpens the image. Boomers may avoid the coldness or odd proportions. Gen Z chases the code. Bottega Veneta is where the boomer and Gen Z argument over logos becomes very clear. Boomers who grew up with classic luxury often understand why a visible logo matters. A logo can prove the purchase. It can tell other people what the item is. It can make the money visible. Bottega Veneta often rejects that. The brand is famous for woven leather, soft shapes, rich textures, and pieces that do not need a giant name printed across them. That can frustrate boomers who feel that if something costs a lot, it should announce itself. Gen Z sees the lack of announcement as the whole point. The woven leather is the logo, the shape is the logo, the color is the logo. Whoever recognizes it joins the quiet club. Gen Z does not want to look like it is begging for approval. Bottega proved that logo-free luxury can be just as recognizable as logo-heavy luxury. Boomers may see a plain-looking bag. Gen Z sees stealth status. A padded sandal, a sculptural bag, a bright green accessory, or a woven tote carries a signal without spelling it out. The controversial part is that this quiet branding is not truly quiet. It is quiet only to people outside the fashion loop. Inside the loop, it is extremely loud. Bottega Veneta also benefits from the way products now need to photograph. Woven texture, rounded volume, and strange soft shapes read clearly on a screen. Boomers may avoid it because it seems overpriced without obvious branding. Gen Z chases it because the branding is hidden in the design itself. Coach is the brand that can trigger a very different kind of boomer reaction because many boomers think they already know it. To them, Coach may bring up memories of malls, outlet stores, office bags, holiday gifts, and dependable leather goods. That history is real, but Gen Z is not carrying the same baggage. Younger shoppers often see Coach through vintage bags, styling videos, bag charms, restored leather, playful campaigns, and a more accessible version of status. This is where boomers can make a serious mistake. They may dismiss Coach because it does not fit their idea of top-tier luxury, while Gen Z treats it as one of the smartest buys in the current fashion cycle. Not everyone can buy a top European luxury bag, and many younger consumers are cautious about spending huge money in an uncertain economy. Coach gives them leather, identity, and recognizability at a price that feels less insane than ultra-luxury. Boomers may see that as a compromise. Gen Z often sees it as strategy. A vintage Coach bag can look cooler than a new logo-heavy bag because it feels lived in and personal. A bag becomes a base for decoration. Charms, scarves, keychains, initials, little objects, and personal signals. Boomers may see clutter. Gen Z sees customization. Coach challenges the old luxury hierarchy because it suggests a shopper can be stylish without buying the most expensive name possible. An older leather bag a boomer may have left in the closet can suddenly become exactly what Gen Z wants. Balenciaga is one of the most divisive brands in modern luxury, and boomers often have strong feelings about it. Many older shoppers look at the oversized hoodies, distressed sneakers, strange boots, huge silhouettes, damaged-looking details, and runway shock tactics and say, "This is not luxury." That reaction is not rare. Balenciaga has built its modern identity around discomfort, exaggeration, and irony. It has also faced serious public controversy. But even with that baggage, the brand remains a major reference point for young fashion culture because it understands spectacle better than almost anyone. Gen Z does not always want luxury to look beautiful in the boomer sense. Sometimes they want it to look extreme, funny, ugly, aggressive, or impossible to ignore. Balenciaga sells that feeling. A sneaker that looks beaten up can become a status item because it rejects the normal idea that expensive things should look clean and perfect. A giant hoodie can become luxury because of cut, branding, scarcity, and cultural heat. A bag shaped like an everyday object can become desirable because it turns the ordinary into a joke only fashion people are expected to accept. Boomers may feel mocked, and in a way they are not totally wrong. A lot of the appeal comes from testing what people will accept when a luxury name is attached. The brand forces the question, are you buying beauty, quality, attention, identity, or the thrill of being misunderstood? Boomers often want luxury to reduce embarrassment. Balenciaga can create embarrassment on purpose and then charge for it. For young shoppers raised in meme culture, an item that starts an argument can be more valuable than an item everyone politely approves. Jacquemus is the kind of brand many boomers may find charming for a moment and then question as soon as they see the price. Tiny bags, sunny colors, huge hats, soft dresses, playful shapes, and runway shows in dramatic outdoor locations can make the brand feel more like a vacation fantasy than a traditional luxury house. Boomers who value practicality may ask what fits inside the famous small bags or why a simple summer piece needs a designer price. Gen Z hears those questions and shrugs because practicality is not always the point. Jacquemus sells mood. It sells warmth, flirtation, sunlight, clean styling, countryside fantasy, and the feeling of being relaxed but watched. Its images are instantly readable. You do not need a fashion degree to understand the world it creates. It looks bright, simple, romantic, and slightly surreal. Boomers may see that as lightweight. Gen Z sees fluency. Jacquemus knows how to create a moment that works on a phone screen. A tiny bag may not carry much, but it carries conversation. A huge hat may not be practical, but it becomes unforgettable. Usefulness is one kind of value. Memorability is another. Boomers often judge luxury by how long an item will last in a wardrobe. Gen Z may also care about longevity, but they are more open to pieces that create a strong image right now. Jacquemus gives younger shoppers a way to look playful without looking cheap, romantic without looking old-fashioned, and fashionable without looking too serious. Boomers may avoid it because it seems too sunny, too small, too trendy, or too impractical. Gen Z chases it because it makes luxury feel like a beautiful day that can be worn. Alaïa is a brand with deep fashion history, but its current appeal with Gen Z shows how young shoppers can revive a name in a new way. Boomers who know fashion may respect Alaïa, but many everyday boomer shoppers may still avoid it because the pieces can feel too body-focused, too sculptural, too specific, or too fashion insider. Gen Z likes exactly that. Alaïa offers elegance that is not boring. Its shoes, dresses, bags, and fitted shapes often feel clean but powerful, soft but controlled, feminine but not weak. That attracts younger shoppers who want grown-up style without sliding into safe corporate adulthood. Boomers may look for a classic bag with obvious long-term usefulness. Gen Z may chase an Alaïa flat, a sculptural bag, or a sharp dress because the shape itself feels collectible. Its power is that it does not need to shout. A piece can be quiet, but the silhouette gives it away. Younger shoppers want things that look distinct without depending only on a logo. Alaïa benefits from if you know culture, but in a more elegant way. It feels discovered, not forced. Boomers may not always understand why a younger shopper would choose it over more famous luxury houses, but that is part of the appeal. Gen Z wants the satisfaction of choosing something with history and taste, not just popularity. Boomers may see less value because the branding is not loud. Gen Z sees more value because the branding is embedded in design. Alaïa makes luxury feel like shape, confidence, and discipline, not just a name stamped on a product. Diesel is a comeback brand that many boomers might struggle to take seriously because they remember a very different version of it. For some boomers, Diesel may bring up old denim ads, mall culture, loud belts, early 2000s nightlife, and a time when the brand felt more casual than luxury. That memory can make boomers dismiss the new Diesel before they even look properly. Gen Z sees something else. They see dirty denim, club energy, low-rise attitude, distressed finishes, coated fabric, body-conscious styling, and a brand that feels sweaty in a luxury world full of beige. The brand did not come back by pretending to be quiet luxury. It came back by being loud, sexy, chaotic, and a little trashy on purpose. Boomers may see that word as an insult. Gen Z often sees it as a style choice. Younger shoppers are tired of being told everything has to be tasteful, safe, minimal, and investment-worthy. Diesel gives them permission to look imperfect, bold, and alive. A distressed denim skirt, a logo belt, a strange bag, or a coated jacket can feel like rebellion against the clean girl uniform. Boomers may ask why young people want clothes that look worn out or provocative. Gen Z may answer that perfect clothes can feel fake. Diesel sells friction. It makes the outfit look like it has been somewhere. Its value is not based on old luxury manners. It is based on attitude, recognition, and cultural timing. For boomers, that may not be enough. For Gen Z, it can be everything. Maison Margiela is the brand that can make boomers draw a hard line, especially when the Tabi shoe enters the room. Many boomers look at the split-toe design and immediately reject it. They may call it ugly, strange, impractical, or even animal-like. That reaction is part of why the shoe remains powerful. Gen Z loves items that make people react. The Tabi is not a polite shoe. It interrupts the outfit. It makes strangers stare. It asks whether fashion should be beautiful or whether it can be memorable first. Maison Margiela is built around deconstruction, anonymity, exposed construction, and clothing that questions itself. Boomers who want luxury to look finished may struggle with that. Gen Z often likes the unfinished feeling because it suggests thought. A visible stitch, a blank label, a strange cut, or a shoe that splits the toes can feel like proof that the brand is not just decorating the body. It is making an argument. The controversial part is that many people still hate the Tabi, and that hatred does not hurt it. It helps it. A normal boot can be ignored, a Tabi cannot. The shoe is recognizable from a bad photo, a blurry video, or a quick street-style shot. Boomers may see a fashion joke that went too far. Gen Z sees a cult object with history. Younger shoppers want pieces that say they understand fashion beyond surface-level luxury. Boomers may avoid it because it looks weird. Gen Z chases it because weird is the proof. Rick Owens is a brand many boomers avoid because it can look like fashion from a dark concrete cave. The clothes are often black, long, heavy, draped, sharp, or strange. The boots can look huge. The proportions can look extreme. The mood can feel gothic, alien, or even hostile. Boomers who prefer luxury to look refined, bright, tasteful, and socially acceptable may not know what to do with it. Gen Z knows exactly what to do with it. They treat Rick Owens as armor. The brand gives the wearer a full world. It is not just a jacket or a boot. It is a whole identity, dark, disciplined, dramatic, and uninterested in approval. That attracts younger shoppers surrounded by brands trying to be friendly, cute, soft, and endlessly marketable. Rick Owens does not feel friendly in that normal commercial way. It feels committed. Boomers may see that as too much. Gen Z sees it as rare. It does not seem to panic and chase every little trend. It has its own language and keeps refining it. The clothing can look impractical, expensive, severe, and difficult. But that difficulty is the appeal. A younger shopper wearing Rick Owens is not usually trying to look approachable. They are trying to look like they have chosen a side. Boomers may prefer clothes that help them fit into a nice dinner, a business event, or a polished social setting. Gen Z may want clothes that make them look like they walked out of a different reality. Boomers may avoid the darkness. Gen Z chases the commitment. Vivienne Westwood is a brand many boomers understand historically but may still avoid personally. The punk roots, corsets, tartan, orb jewelry, rebellious shapes, political energy, and romantic disorder can feel too loud or too costume-like for older shoppers who want luxury to behave. But Gen Z loves that the brand does not behave. Vivienne Westwood gives young shoppers rebellion with history. The orb necklace, corset top, tartan skirt, bridal mini dress, and vintage pieces all carry a strong identity. Boomers may remember punk as chaos, noise, and rebellion against respectability. Gen Z can now treat that same history as fashion heritage. What looked disruptive to one generation can become collectible to another. Resale and vintage culture help because older pieces often feel more authentic than newly manufactured trend items. Younger shoppers want clothes with a story, but not a boring story. Vivienne Westwood gives them romance, rebellion, drama, and a little danger. Boomers may see a corset and think it is too theatrical. Gen Z sees a piece that can turn a simple outfit into a statement. The controversial part is that the brand makes luxury feel political, messy, and emotional. It does not always fit the calm, wealthy image boomers may associate with designer clothing. But younger shoppers do not want every luxury item to whisper. Sometimes they want it to argue. Boomers may avoid the drama. Gen Z chases it because the drama is the value. Coperni is the brand that makes boomers question whether modern luxury has become too dependent on viral moments. That question is fair because Coperni is tied to spectacle, technology references, futuristic bags, runway stunts, and images designed to travel fast online. Many boomers may look at a spray-on dress moment, a glass-like bag, a strange tech-inspired accessory, or a runway concept, and ask whether this is fashion or just marketing. Gen Z is more comfortable with the blur between the two. They grew up in a world where the product, the video, the celebrity wearing it, the meme, the comment section, and the resale listing can all become part of the same fashion object. It knows one unforgettable image can put a label into millions of minds. Boomers may see that as shallow. Gen Z sees it as the reality of attention. Its swipe bag, futuristic styling, and viral runway moments make it feel connected to the present tense. It does not lean on centuries of heritage. It leans on immediacy. That can make older shoppers suspicious because traditional luxury often says, "Trust us, we have been here forever." Coperni says, "Watch this." That is a different promise. The question is whether the excitement can last after the viral moment fades. A boomer may be right to ask that. But Gen Z may still chase the brand because they value being part of the moment while it is happening. Boomers may avoid it because it feels too new, too digital, too stunt-driven, or too uncertain. Gen Z chases it because it proves luxury does not need to be old to feel powerful. The biggest lesson is not that boomers have bad taste or that Gen Z has better taste. That would be too simple. The real lesson is that boomers and Gen Z are using different rules to judge the same market. Boomers often ask whether a luxury item looks durable, respectable, classic, practical, and clearly worth the money. Gen Z often asks whether it has a point of view, whether it works in an outfit, whether it carries resale interest, whether it has cultural heat, whether it photographs well, and whether it says something before the wearer speaks. That is why a boomer may reject a tiny bag, a split-toe shoe, dirty denim, a plain beige coat, or a strange sculptural boot, while a Gen Z shopper may treat the same item like a treasure. Luxury did not stop being about status. It just changed the shape of status. Sometimes status is a logo, no logo, history, a viral image, craft, attitude, or simply knowing why everyone else is confused. So here is the real question. Which brand do you think boomers are right to avoid? And which brand do you think Gen Z is right to chase? Like the video, comment with the one brand you would actually wear and the one brand you would never touch. And share this with someone who still thinks luxury is only about looking rich.